Hi, I'm Bernie Hayes. Today we'll be talking about a house. You may even call it a cliffhanger. A house that you might be familiar with today on The Bernie Hayes Show. And welcome back. My guests are Bruce Stahl. Bruce, how are you?
Good, Bernie. Nice to meet you.
And Shari Gronwall. How are you, great Shari?
Nice to meet you. Thank you for having us.
Oh, you're kidding me. I'm so thrilled. We're talking about the Stahl House, case study number 22, the making of a modernistic icon. You people grew up in a very famous house.
We did.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't famous when we grew up there.
Yeah, people tell us we grew up in a famous house. That's
Well, it's quite famous right now. There's a book written about it. It's a wonderful book. Have all kind of case studies and all kind of pictures and photographs, the history of the house itself. How does it feel? Why did you write this book? I'll ask you, Shari. Why is the book written?
Well, I think what happens is over the years, the house has become famous, and everything written has always been about the house. It's always, the architect, the structural engineer, the Bethlehem Steel Company. And we thought, gosh, really, people come on tours and what they ask is not in the books, which is who lived here? What was the family like? So for the last probably 10 years, we've been kind of going through images and documents and putting an archive together because we wanted to do a book to tell the world who we are and who Buck and Carlotta were.
Right. Bruce, perhaps you can tell us who were Buck and Carlotta. Who were they? And why are they so important? Who was Buck and Carlotta?
well, Buck and Carlotta, my mother and father. Buck was born in St. Louis in 1912 to a milkman and a homemaker, and soon realized that he wanted to make his way west because he loved the warmer climate and he loved the ocean. And Mom was the consummate host when it came to everything.
I see he went to Cleveland High School here in St. Louis, a very famous high school.
Yeah, he did. And he also enrolled in technical school for printing.
Is Rankin still there?
Yes, it is, Rankin Tech.
He went to that school after high school.
Right, we saw that, and it's a very famous school here. And in fact, they've expanded, so they're almost a university now. The campus is really, really large, much larger than what it was.
Than when he went.
Yeah, so it's very, very high profile school now. It is too. How did it feel, you two growing up in this iconic home? I'll ask you, Bruce. I'll ask Bruce first.
Sure. Okay, for me, I didn't really realize that my home was special until probably high school, when you'd bring friends up and they would their jaws would hit the floor and wondered, oh my God, this is a beautiful house. And then the film shoots and the movie industry kind of made it even more famous. But as a kid, it was just home.
And how about you, Shari?
And kind of the same thing. When we were growing up, it was just home. It was where we spent a lot of time in the pool, and it wasn't famous. There was Prescription Murder, which was the Columbo pilot that came on that we thought, wow, this is pretty cool. And so we got to mingle with the crew, but it was still home. It wasn't until probably my 20s where I started realizing, oh gosh, I think this is something, I'm seeing more articles about it. There's, people interested in taking a look at the house. There's just articles. And so by that time, I started to realize that this house was something special.
It's very interesting because the Columbo piece that you just mentioned ran here in St. Louis less than 2 months ago. And when Bobby, when your cousin Bobby, who was my engineer, Bob Demler, mentioned it, I told him, but when we talked about the house and he talked about the book, I told him that I just saw that last week, and I'd seen it before. And that house I've seen it in so many different places that it's unbelievable that I'm related. He's related to, you're related to my engineer and producer.
Yes,
Yeah.
our cousin.
Yeah. You call him Bobby, right?
He doesn't
Yeah,
like.
we've always called him Bobby.
Yeah, he told me that he visited you out there one time. He has a picture of him actually visiting your home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually been out here to Idaho too to visit with me, which is where I live right now. And yeah, he needs to come back for a visit.
Shari, what's the importance of the book? What do you want people to get from the book?
I think the importance is what we wanted to tell the world was it wasn't easy, because a lot of times people would come up and they'd say, oh gosh, they would tell my parents, you're so lucky, or Shari, you're so lucky that you grew up here. And I have to kind of refer back to what my dad and mom went through, which was the hardship of trying to afford the house, the trouble of getting it built, the issues with City Hall trying to get things approved, that we wanted to tell everybody that it wasn't easy, but perseverance and dedication to your dream, and don't take no for an answer, that it enabled them to fulfill their dream.
There's another name.
We wanted to tell the world and give them a little bit of encouragement. Like, here we are, this is who the family is, but we also want you to strive to go after your own dream, make it happen.
In the book, it shows a financing, very unique type of financing for the book. So your dad went through quite a bit just to get the house built, I understand.
Yes, they did. And I'm sure you read the part about the one bank, the one out of all of them that they tried to reach out for was Broadway Federal Savings and Loan.
Right.
And it was the only African-American bank at the time, and still is. It's still number one.
Right. Bruce, there's another name that keeps reoccurring in the book, Mr. Koenig. Do you know who he is and what's his importance?
Pierre Koenig was the architect that my mother and father decided to go with to design the house. Now, my father, a year before Koenig came on board, had kind of created a 3D model of what he wanted here. And I tell everybody, between my father and my mother and Pierre Koenig, it was a true collaboration to build this place. Koenig was from the very beginning. And my father said if it wasn't for Koenig, we wouldn't have gotten a place built. He had to navigate his way through City Hall and everything. And at one point, Koenig kind of threw a Hail Mary and basically said, show me in the code book where I can't do it. And he says, if you can't show me where I can't do it, then I'm going to do it. And they had to relinquish and sign off on this structure that they didn't really want built, but they got Koenig kind of backed him into a corner where they had to sign off on it, because it was all engineered right and everything, and it's still standing to this day after 61 years later.
Were you aware as a child, the two of you, the difficulties perhaps the engineers or construction people went through to build this house?
When we were younger, no. As we grew up and we had been living in the house for a while, the stories that our mother and father told us, and even stories that Pierre came across and told us also, was the catalyst for us to kind of really put this story down in print. And the main reason, one of the main reasons was to write the book, was to get the story out so it's not changed down the road. Because you know how you tell number one person in line and you pass the story down, and pretty soon, by the time it reaches 100, the story doesn't resemble what number one heard.
It changes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell me this. So much on the book I want to ask you about, and so many pictures and visuals that I want to talk about also. And I just want to say how thrilled I am just to be speaking to the two of you. There's a picture of you two as children, all through the book also, and it's just amazing. So your dad had a vision, had a dream, and he built it. I want to come back and ask you about the difficulties that he went through and what his vision really was. We'll be right back after this.
Will you help New Life Evangelistic Center get back into 1411 Locust Street? Your tax-deductible gifts are urgently needed at this particular time, and there's many different ways that we're working to get back in that facility. One of the ways is to continue to inform the community through the Bernie Hayes Show and other programs. And if you haven't supported the Bernie Hayes Show and the work of New Life Evangelistic Center, please do it now. It's urgently needed. Your gifts are deeply appreciated. So many homeless people are waiting to get back into 1411 Locust, and so many others need the direct help that New Life is trying to provide at this time, but is facing some real financial needs. And that's why your gift is very, very important. And to express our thankfulness for all of you that are sharing your gifts, we want to send you this special Bernie Hayes cup. It's my wife's favorite drinking cup. She loves to drink out of this cup, and this is actually the only coffee cup she wants to use is the Bernie Hayes cup. There's something very special about this cup, and we'll send it to each one of you that share a gift of $25 or more with the New Life Evangelistic Center and ask for your Bernie Hayes cup. It's P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri, that's 63166. Your gift will not only help us get back into the 1411 Locust building, but will help our first responders that are on the streets, the first responders that we have out there day after day, night after night. It will help keep our women and children in our safe houses, continue to keep our training programs open, our worldwide mission work, whether it's in India, Haiti, Africa, so many different things the New Life Evangelistic Center is doing. In addition to NLEC TV, tell your family and friends about it. Put it on your phone. Put on your get that phone app on all your friends' phones so that they can all see the Bernie Hayes Show or go to 24.2. It's your prayers and gifts that make all of this possible. I thank God for those of you who continue to pray for the reopening of 1411 Locust and the work of New Life Evangelistic Center. There's so many obstacles we're facing as we try to help the homeless, but we're going to continue to give it to God. We're going to continue to pray. We're going to continue to work, but we need you to partner with us. So again, it's New Life Evangelistic Center, P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri, that's 63166. I thank God for each one of you that are praying, caring, and sharing.
And welcome back. My guests are Shari Grunwald and Bruce Stahl. They're the former residents of what's called the Stahl House. Case study number 22, The Making of a Modernistic Icon. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. Everybody should read it. John Stanza, it says in the book, what man has learned about himself in the past 5 years will, we are sure, express itself in the way in which he will want to be honored to the future. Only one thing will stop the realization of that wish, and that is the tenacity with which man clings to old forms because he does not yet understand the new. Did you two growing up understand that this was a new concept in housing, the glass windows, sitting over a cliff, looking over a city? Did you, I'll start with you, Shari.
Oh, it wasn't, how do I say it? We were children, we didn't know anything different. Again, it wasn't until we were older that we realized, wow, this is not like the other houses my friends have. And it's really different with all the glass. And so we started realizing again, as we started growing up, that this was pretty special and it was pretty innovating to build with steel and glass where everybody else was still building in wood.
Yeah.
How about
back,
go ahead,
ahead,
Bruce, please. No, please.
back then, like Shari says, homes were built of wood, and building with steel. Koenig actually took this design to his professor down at USC. And his professor flatly said, you can't build a private residence out of steel. It's just not done. He goes, why? And he, like my father, Pierre, and my dad did not take no for an answer. They just interpreted no, meaning find a different way. But Pierre really kind of stretched everybody's imagination. I mean, this house today is still very modern, and it's a 61-year-old house. My parents' main goal was to build their dream house, and they found this lot with a 270-degree view of the city with nothing blocking it. And they spent probably a year or more trying to figure out, okay, where are we going to put the walls to hold the roof up? And they eventually came to the conclusion that we don't want to block any of this view, so we're going to make it a house of glass. And it was up to Koenig to figure out the logistics, the engineering, and get it through City Hall.
Yeah, that's what I said. Koenig was
it was very different from the other houses that were up there on the same road and our friends' houses. And so, yeah, it it grew on us as far as the popularity of it and the design. And I still, to this day, like Bruce said, it's still very modern, 61 years later.
Were you bused to school? How did you attend school? How'd you get to school back and forth?
Well, the bus used to pick us up at the bottom of the hill, so we'd walk. Either mom or dad would drive us down to the stop sign down at the base of the hill, and then the bus would take us to school. But there's been many times where I just walked home from Gardner Street Elementary, which is just down the street, still there today.
Right. And it's the same school that Michael Jackson went to.
Oh, really? No kidding.
Yes, yes. We remember him as a child. We used to play with him on the playground. It was fun.
Very interesting. The when Mr. Coney was actually helping your dad design the house and getting the structural engineers and so forth, I understand that, in fact, there's pictures of a fire. Weren't you concerned about earthquakes or fire hazards or even mudslides or so forth?
I think we worry more about earthquakes and windstorms. Fires, the foliage around the house is there's not a lot of trees. It's just kind of grass, which is going to burn off very quickly. In case of a fire, it would burn right past us. I mean, it's going to take an intense amount of fire and heat to do any damage to this house. But the wind and the earthquakes have a way of putting its mark on the house, breaking windows or things like that.
We do, yeah, earthquakes are definitely a concern, just because I've been up there during earthquakes and they've woken me up and I could see the house just swaying. What was brilliant is the steel is actually very flexible in an earthquake. So you see the house just swaying back and forth as the earthquake comes in, and it doesn't really do any damage at all. The only thing that would bother me a little bit on the earthquakes is the pool. We just don't want the plaster pool to crack underneath or move to where it would drain the water and cause erosion. So that would be my concern for sure.
I understand that the pool came a little bit later after the construction of the home. Is that true?
What was that?
Yes.
Yeah, the pool came later after the home was constructed. Then you added the pool.
Yes, that's true. What happened is Broadway Federal Savings and Loan wanted to, they agreed to fund the loan for the building of the house. Yeah. But there were some conditions. They had to have a 2-car carport instead of one, and they had to build a swimming pool with a diving board and filter and heater. And all of a sudden, my parents kind of took a step back and said, okay, well, we could do that, but we won't do the funding. You have to find separate funding for the pool. So it was kind of, for my parents, it was an afterthought, but it was a brilliant move on Broadway Federal Savings and Loan side, as well as Koenig building and designing the pool that you see today in the house. It's incredible what that pool has done for the house itself and what it did for us as children. And it became a babysitter for the 3 kids.
I saw people diving off the pool like a diving board itself off the roof into the pool. How thrilling was that?
We're on our 4th generation roof jumpers. My father was the 1st generation. Shari, my brother, and I second. My kids are the 3rd. Shari's child is the 3rd, and then now we have grandkids jumping off the roof.
And Bruce, I understand that you were almost an Olympian. Because did the pool have much to do with that? You being a swimmer and the many medals that you won?
Well, there was a few factors involved there. I learned to swim here in the pool. My father taught me. And when I went into high school, I wanted to join the football team. So my father, being an old ball player himself and getting pretty busted up, said, absolutely not. I don't like to play football. But I was recruited out of a PE class at high school to join the swim team. And that's when my swimming career started, and took it about as far as I could take it. And who's to say whether I would have made the 1980 team or not? But I didn't really get that chance because the Olympics were boycotted that year.
Yeah, politics into your future.
Yeah, sports and politics never mix well. Usually the athletes get the raw end of the deal.
Always, always. Before we go too far, how can we get the book? How can we purchase it? And what's the best way to do so?
You could purchase the book through all of your major book dealers, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can actually go to Chronicle Books. You can also come on a tour, and you can purchase the book at the time if you want to tour the home. But it is available online at all your major booksellers.
And what's the name of it?
The book?
Yes.
It's called Stahl House Case Study House number 22, The Making of a Modernist Icon.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful cover too. What part did Kim Cross play in this book?
She was the writer. She actually wrote all those words in the book. We met so many times, and we just kind of we would sit around a round table and just discuss the story. And every time something would come up we would think about, we would tell Kim about it. And she ended up taking a lot of our notes, quite a bit of our notes and our memories, and put them down on paper. But she actually researched, and she really went very deep into the researching of the case study program, the Bajas movement, and she was amazing. And she ended up putting it all down on this on a manuscript that ended up being our book, and we're so pleased with it.
Well, she did a marvelous job. We're going to take a short break now and come back with some more questions I want to ask you. But we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this.
An epidemic of homelessness is sweeping throughout the United States of America. In city after city, people are ending up on the streets. Now, instead of feeling overwhelmed, as believers, we can do three things. We can give, we can volunteer, and we can pray. We can pray for the homeless refugees that we're finding in one city after another, all over the United States. So many people ending up out on the streets. And the hearts of so many are growing cold at this particular time and indifferent to the need. Jesus said, as oft as you've done it to the least of these, he said, even so you've done it unto me. When's the last time you've prayed for the homeless refugees in the United States of America, appearing in city after city, not only in major cities, but even smaller cities? So many people ending up out on the streets, even in resort areas, places you never think you'd find homeless people. They're there. Jesus said, foxes have holes and birds have nests, but he, the Son of Man, had nowhere to lay his head. Please pray for the refugees. Please pray for the homeless people in America. And pray for those that are on the front lines, the first responders, reaching out through Jesus Christ among the homeless and hurting, whether it's in Springfield or St. Louis. Your prayers and gifts to the New Life Evangelistic Center makes a big difference. This New Life Evangelistic Center, P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri, is 63166.
Our Black History subject today is Neil deGrasse Tyson, an American astronomer who popularized science with his books and frequent appearances on radio and television. Tyson received a bachelor's degree in physics from Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1980, and a master's degree in astronomy from the University of Texas at Austin in 1983. He then earned a master's degree and a doctorate of astrophysics at Columbia University in New York City. He was a postdoctoral research associate at Princeton University from 1991 to 1994 when he joined the Hayden Planetarium as a staff scientist. His research dealt with problems relating to galactic structure and evolution. He became acting director of the Hayden Planetarium in 1995 and director in 1996. In 2000, he wrote an autobiography, The Sky is Not the Limit, Adventures of Urban Astrophysicist. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
It's New Life Evangelistic Center's birthday. January 22nd, we're going to be celebrating 50 years of God's faithfulness and how much He has been serving through New Life Evangelistic Center. You're a part of that. Come and enjoy the celebration. Call 314-421-3020 to secure your spot at the 50th year celebration. God is so good. He has been faithful through the work of New Life. Join us.
And welcome back. We're talking to Shari Gronwald and also Bruce Stahl. They're the subjects of the new book. It's called The Stahl House, Case Study Number 22, The Making of a Modernistic Icon. Shari, I've seen some of the pictures, movies that and shot. But I understand that your mother some of the artists and models that came to the house were very, very famous, but she was totally against nudity. You know, there was a one scene where some lady had her back out. Your mother says, and she altered the contract, says no even hint of nudity in this house. Is that correct?
That is correct. She, till the day she died, was not she would not let nudity happen at the house. No see-through clothing, no nothing. She didn't want her house associated with nudity or anything risque.
Right.
Yeah, we wanted to try to keep a good image of the house, and allowing that would sully the image of the house.
Right. We've had a lot of people contact us that want to do shoots like that, but no, we still keep with our mother's wishes, and we do not allow nudity or see-through clothing or, like I said, anything risque at the house.
Some of the films, you know, this is just amazing to me. Films featuring the Stahl House: Smog in 1962, The First Power, 1990, The Marrying Man in 1991, Corrina, which I saw, that was in 1994, Playing by the Heart, 1998, Why Do Fools Fall in Love? That's a story about Frankie Lyman, and that was one of my favorite movies. And I had no idea I'd be interviewing you about this particular house that Frankie was supposed to have lived in. Galaxy Quest, 1999, The 13th Floor, 1999, Nurse Betty, which also was a favorite of mine, in 2000, Where the Truth Lies in 2005, and Knight of Cups, 2015. When some of these wonderful actresses came to the house, were you in awe, or was it just another person visiting your home?
I remember for the movie Galaxy Quest, Tim Allen came to the house, and I believe he was pretty impressed, but he came up to my mother and said, "I love your house, but I could never live here." Something a star would say, because it's all glass and no privacy.
Did you ever, as you two as children, ever realize that you had a glass house? You know, they say if you live in a glass house, don't throw stones. But how was it living in a glass house? Although you had the view of the city, but the city didn't have a view of you. So how was it? How was it living in that particular environment?
I tell people it was wonderful. I mean, my mom could be in any room and see us playing in the pool, jumping off the roof. It was truly a blessed childhood, and I had a great time.
Yeah, it's I don't think it was privacy wasn't an issue for us. Early on when we were children, they did have drapes. Carlotta put drapes up just for some privacy, but as we got older, she wanted the drapes down, and she didn't want any interruption with her view. And the other houses across the canyon are all glass, or not all glass, but a lot of glass as well. So they could see us, we could see them. It's we just don't worry about privacy that much.
We're out of time. Once again, tell us how we can get the book and why we should get it. About 30 seconds.
Bruce, you want to take this?
Yeah, you could get the book at any major book store, online, Amazon, Walmart. You can even go to the Stahl House website and order it from us.
And Shari, why should we buy the book?
It's a love story, but also it's a story of perseverance and hanging in there and not taking no for an answer. It's an uplifting book.
I can only say to you both, thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me be a part of the Stahl House and the Stahl family. Bruce Stahl, Shari Grunwald, thank you so very, very much. Good luck with the book, and please keep that house in good condition.
Thank you, Bernie. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I know.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed what we did today, this wonderful, wonderful house and wonderful, wonderful family. And I'm Bernie Hayes, and please join us next time.